Okay, so
Welcome back.
Here. Welcome back. We're back here after the award ceremony with Benjamin and Zephaniah and a dog in the background. I'm not sure if you can see that. Hello. With a pearl necklace on, it seems.
Got a little dog here on the balcony. It's slightly random state of affairs.
I'm so pleased to be here because I know I'm around creative, interesting people, and it's a real pleasure.
It's a pleasure for us to have you. It's been been fantastic. Thanks very much for that. I just wanted to.
It's all right. I took a breath, but it's
starstruck.
fine. What's your takeaway moment from tonight?
Well, there are so many actually, because I didn't see the films of the nominations, and just to see how much work's being done all over the world, in small communities, in war zones and things like that. I mean, I was really moved by that, and it was really interesting because I didn't have the opportunity to come back on most of them, but that was really moving. But you know, it has to be David Crystal, because he meant so much to me as somebody who was using English, but using a kind of informal type of English, and being told by some people that this is not allowed, and then to have somebody that was so intelligent and knew his subject so well to say, actually, you know, this is allowed. English doesn't just belong to the English, you know, and that's a great thing and something that we should really be proud of, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Kind of gives kudos to those arguments as well. I remember reading something he wrote about text messaging, and it was all kind of down on the youth for text messaging, and he was saying, no, it's a form of bilingualism. So, yeah, I hear where you're coming from.
Because I was so dyslexic, when I started writing kind of phonetically, and a lot of the things that I was doing, when text messaging came out, I started to see that I used to spell love L-U-V.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wow, people are doing this now. So, you know, we have to celebrate a language that is so flexible and so inclusive and so diverse. And, you know, and we have it. I mean, not only with the British Council, I mean, I travel around the world with all kinds of organisations and freelancing with my band. And it's amazing that I can walk into almost any hotel in the world and go, hello, and they go, hello, Mr. Zephaniah, you know.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's definitely that.
When, with my students, we use one of your poems called The British. I'm not sure how long ago it was that you wrote that, but for them, when they newly arrive in the UK, they really enjoy it and they find it very empowering and interesting as well. And so how relevant do you think that is now? When did you write it and how relevant do you think it is now?
Well, I'm not sure exactly when I wrote it, but I wrote it a long time ago. And I wrote it a long time before it was even published. I just thought, you know, how could I write something about the British? And I thought, let's do it as a recipe.
Yeah.
You know, and the dish is called the British.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting that when people started to ask questions about who are the British and who are the other and what makes the British, that poem just became more and more relevant. And more people like you who were teaching it and more people that read it and students would come to me and say, we need this poem now. And that's really moving because, you know, I wrote it one day in my bedroom kind of thing and you know, I think it would go on page 25 in a book somewhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, the multiculturalism that we have in Britain is something that really some people tend to think, we tend to associate it with the blacks and the Asians, and I say no, it's the Celts and the Juts and the Sillers, the Angles, the Saxons, you know, that's all multiculturalism. The Welsh language, the Cornish language, the Scottish language, that is multiculturalism. And people only start to complain when they see something go wrong, but 99% of the time we're just doing it and we just get on with it. Nobody writes about that.
Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of it is that, I mean, that in a way that's kind of the beauty of this country in some ways, is it is such a melting pot, it is such a kind of a mix, and that's kind of what makes it, rather than this kind of monocultural, I don't know, for me anyway, I mean, I don't live here, but when I come back, what I see is this kind of very different society which is built from the kind of the sort of building blocks or the different kind of cultures that kind of make it what it is.
I feel a big elephant in the room called a racist.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah, let's not. Yeah, let's not.
And they talk about pure Britishness and all that kind of stuff. There are none. We are all mongrels. We all came here from somewhere. It's interesting when these people dug up the earliest bones of people, and they kind of did a model of them, and they found that they had dark skin. I mean, race in a way is irrelevant, and it's something that we've made up. And we have to understand that there's one race, the human race, and Britain represents that more than, and I'm not just saying that because I'm British, I mean, I think it represents it more than anywhere else. In the United States, they have more white people and they have more black people than us, but we have more intermarriages. We are getting on, we're having sex and stuff, and we're going, hey, this is great. Can you say stuff on this station? Can you say sex? Right, okay.
You just did.
We are getting on with it, and that's a great thing. And it's not multiculturalism as prescribed by a government. It's what we do with our music, it's what we do with our art, it's what we do with our language,
I mean, one of the things, or a few times when you were introducing the finalists and the winners and stuff, you were talking about learning and the sort of the power of learning and the kind of what effective learning maybe is, and what your experiences, as you were saying, sort of being dyslexic, and in terms of kind of what learning is and what kind of drives, or what sort of drove you and what inspired you, and kind of what can inspire young kind of kids nowadays. What's kind of important, do you think, for you?
You have to understand, some people can be here and look around and see people who are learned and educated and stuff like that. And some people may include me in that. I don't know your story and I don't know your story. I left school at the age of 13, unable to read and write. Inspired by people like David Crystal and other people, I got interested in language and poetry and all that. When I started to take lessons, this is after I left school actually. Normal school didn't teach me that much. When I went to adult education classes, I then discovered I was dyslexic. But I saw people coming on the television claiming to represent me. I saw a guy come on television and under his title it was said, an expert in black people. And I went,
what does that even mean?
that was his title, and he's supposed to represent me. And I said, you know what? I've got to write my own story. So I tell young people to write your own story. If you don't get angry when other people start writing it for you and you disagree with it. It doesn't matter how small you think it is. It doesn't matter if you write it in a poem or you put it on a website or whatever you do with it. Tell your own truth. Because right now we know that people in high places are doing all kinds of, I'm not going to say fake news and all that stuff, but they're telling all kinds of narratives. But there's nothing like a personal story to move you. You don't have to listen to somebody doing a lecture on feminism to understand. You can listen to a woman and hear her personal story. That woman may not be famous.
Yeah.
That may be Mrs. Smith from down the road. But
it could be your mum or it could be your wife.
Yes, yeah. So that's what I tell people. Tell your own story or read your neighbour's story.
And do you feel that the celebrations tonight have kind of showcased that theme for empowerment and for people to tell their story?
Well, I hope so, because we can't tell our story unless we know how to use language. And the great thing about tonight is not saying, oh, we're all about teaching language in a very prescriptive way.
Yeah.
We're showing that language can be used in many diverse ways to tell lots of stories, and I think that's the great thing about tonight.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much, Benjamin.
So much.
And thanks for coming. And
I thought we were going to go in for a group hug then.
Cool, we're going to go for a hug.
That's
Let's hug. Let's do it.
Increase the peace.
Increase the
Thanks
peace.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
It
Where's
was
that
really lovely to talk
I don't know
to
where the dog's gone,
Benjamin
actually.
Zephaniah there. Wow, tonight is we're shaking it up and moving and grooving. I don't know, tonight there's something a bit magic.
I think maybe it's the rain.
Maybe
the
it's the
rain's done it or
rain.
something.
I think
don't
it
know.
is the rain. It's the atmosphere.
Who knows?
And I don't know. Something's happening. The crowd is buzzing.
I think so. And here we are, joined
Oh, hi.
by our first winner of the evening. Hello. Good evening. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How do you feel?
I feel absolutely overjoyed. It means so much to me to have won this. I've been the whole of the past year has revolved around applying for an ELTon Award, then being in the shortlist and now winning. And it's just fantastic because as a tiny company, I think it's so important to be able to get this recognition from a name like the British Council. So it's so important to me.
Yeah, I mean, you talked in your acceptance speech about how it's kind of very much a small, something that you've kind of developed, and it's very small. So obviously, yeah, from that point of view, to be here as a winner with the trophy must be very, very special. No, I guess.
Yeah, it really is. I think it's funny because if the ELTon Awards are supposed to be about innovation, then I think Go Correct is especially innovative because I actually had the idea for a product like this about a year before the chatbot technology in Facebook Messenger even existed that would allow me to do it. So in that sense, I was sort of one step ahead. So it's, yeah.
No, I mean, it is. It's obviously very innovative.
That leads us on to the next question then. What's next?
Next, my plans for the immediate future are to develop the product more. I've got so many more ideas about what I want to do with it to make it even more useful for English learners. So I want to do that. Maybe even find a little bit of funding from somewhere to help me do that. And then also just spread the word about it to more English learners because a small but dedicated number of people have used it so far.
Two of them mentioned tonight.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that was so cute.
So yeah, I just want to find ways to spread the word about it more widely.
Brilliant. Well, I hope you do, and congratulations again, and thanks ever so much for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens next. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well done, well done.
Okay.
That was great. Truly deserved there.
I think so, yeah.
I love to see that, like a small startup doing massive. Earlier on, actually, the guy who presented this awards from Wibu, and they were a small startup company, and now they're going places. Yeah, big time.
I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Sometimes is you have the sort of big company. I guess you count the British Council in that, Cambridge, Oxford, Macmillan, lots, and to see kind of a small kind of enterprise kind of rise. It gives hope, I think, to a lot of other people who are there, maybe developing things and thinking, well,
Yeah, and she's delighted, and it's delightful to see her.
Yeah.
So delighted. So it's great.
Definitely.
I think we're ready for our next guy.
Okay. Have we got another winner?
Widget guy.
Widget. Do you want to come over? Hi.
Come over.
Hello.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Is it heavy?
It's quite heavy.
Can I? I don't want to drop it. It is heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never felt one actually. Oh, sorry.
So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
A little bit overwhelmed, but it's a great feeling. We were very surprised.
Really surprised. Yeah, absolutely.
Why were you surprised?
Well, it was getting nominated was fantastic. That made us really happy. That was what we wanted in the beginning, and then just being here was a great experience. We weren't expecting to win, especially once we looked at the competition we were up against. Very, very pleasant surprise.
Obviously, you're happy too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. As the guy said, there was like a real wealth of talent, and even to be considered for nomination is fantastic, and to win, it's hard to put into words. But I mean, these guys are fantastic authors. I can say it about them. They've put so much work into the book, and they fully deserve it. I think, from my experience.
Well, no, I mean, obviously you all deserve it. You've won, so I mean, obviously the judges saw something there. I mean, I think the field is always a difficult field, and there's always a lot of competitors who have excellent innovations and excellent products. So
Great speech, by the way. Great speech.
Thank you very much.
So you told us loads about the product in our first interview. So I guess the most fitting question now is: it's 10 years in the making. What's next?
From a business point of view, what's next is we're trying to get distribution around the world. Right now we've got set up for Japan, and we're trying to expand out into different markets. So hopefully we'll be in North America by the end of the year, and Europe as well. So from a business point of view, but from a writing point of view, we're looking at an expansion, sort of a kind of a sister book that would be focused on reading. This book I mean, it involves all 4 skills, but the focus tends to be a little bit more on teamwork, on discussion skills. So we want to have a kind of a book that would allow teachers to expand it if they have a longer course or they want more material, something a little more difficult. So we'll have a kind of widgets case studies where the students will look at case studies of real companies and then use that in the task.
Exciting times then.
I was going to say, I mean, one of the things, I mean, is research into these things and then kind of publishing that research. Is that something that you're looking at doing, or?
Yeah, we research on task-based learning, it has been a really vibrant area, and it's been very research heavy. And that's both a good thing and in some ways a bad thing. It's a little bit intimidating for teachers to come in and really understand task-based learning, because a lot of the research is really quite esoteric. Talking about cognition and psycholinguistics and things that the working teacher doesn't have time to read up on all that literature. So it's a little bit difficult. So we think it's really important to have something like a textbook that allows the teachers to kind of try out the approach, without doing a PhD on it.
Yeah. I mean, definitely more practical materials to sort of support the research is there. But as I sort of hinted at in the speech, it's been all this time, but there's still not that much in terms of actual materials that can be used in the classroom. So more of that would be my aim, at least. Yeah, our aim, I think. Yeah.
Okay. How are you going to celebrate tonight? And when you get back,
very
with
quietly.
The
Very quietly.
Yeah.
We'll be meditating and contemplating the beauty of the universe.
Yeah.
Just back to the hotel and early night and.
Very sedate.
And then when you get back with the wider team, will you have like a little party or something to celebrate with them?
Is there a wider team?
Is there no wider team?
This is the team.
But what about your families? They're part of the wider team, right?
Of course, yeah.
You thank them on stage. I'll just remind you about them. Yes, so, okay, lovely.
Well
done, guys.
Enjoy the rest of the evening and congratulations again. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Have fun.
Thank you.
See you.
Okay.
I love the ELTons.
Do you like celebrating?
Yeah, I do like celebrating. Oh, hey, cheer. I know.
Fantastic.
We're buzzing. It's such a great evening.
Absolutely amazing. Really uplifting kind
I
of
know.
ceremony, wasn't it?
I know. I'm trying to sort of give that, convey the impression of what it's like here. But
It's quite a buzz, isn't it?
It's a lovely feeling.
Yeah. And if you've watched it live stream, you probably know that a lot of the content is really about love and change and changing for the better, and it's all very uplifting, and we're feeling really inspired at the moment.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's good.
I think we're going to hand over to you, I believe.
We're going to head over, yeah.
And leave you with David Crystal. Is that right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Very exciting times. We'll pop back at the end.
We'll come
to
back
say
right
goodbye.
at the end just to say goodbye. I'm going to give you this microphone and we're going to disappear and we'll be back.
Okay.
So enjoy.
Thank you,
Over to
Paul.
cheers.
Thank you, Callie. So, if you have watched the event live stream, you probably know that the winner for this year's outstanding contribution to English language teaching and learning is none other than David Crystal. I've got David with me here right now. Hello, David.
Hi, hello. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody.
David, how do you feel about winning this award?
Well, I am amazed. And you might say, well, but you're very well known. Yes, but you see, I am the least in the kingdom of ELT. I am. You see, all you people out there, you spend your lives teaching kids and teaching adults. You're in the classroom. I've never done that. I'm a university man. I teach teachers perhaps, but the difficult job is being in the classroom day by day by day by day, and I've never done that. So I take my hat off to everybody who has to do that every day. So as I say, I'm amazed to be given this award. All the previous recipients, apart from perhaps Ron Carter last year, are ELT professionals. I'm not. I'm on the fringe, but I'm delighted to be part of the business.
I would hardly call you as on the fringe. You're definitely right in the center of things. And I think today's host, Benjamin Zephaniah, put it really nicely. He talked about how you inspired him to bring and a lot of other people to bring the English that is used by many, the varieties of English used by many, that is underground, overground, and that's what he said tonight, which I thought was beautiful. Could you tell us a bit more about how you do that, how you give legitimacy to the Englishes of the world?
Yeah, well, the first thing to do is to recognize that the Englishes are of the world. You know, there was a time when everybody thought, oh, Britain owns English, and then perhaps America owns English. But that's history now. 2.3 billion people speaking English around the world. Every country in the world now has English as part of its either lingua franca or part of its curriculum or what have you. And every country that has adopted English in this way then immediately adapts it. I mean, all you out there, you own English now. It's not just a few people. Anybody who has come to learn English now has a right in it. And that means that the way in which they speak is just as legitimate. I mean, once you achieve a certain level of fluency, of course, you have to be understandable. Once you have achieved that level, then one should forget the history of the language and that once upon a time it was only Britain or only America. Now all these different new Englishes around the world have a legitimacy of their own. And it's through studying that and describing that and recommending that I think Benjamin's point becomes extremely valid.
It makes people very scared, though, this concept of how English can be owned by anyone who speaks it.
Yeah. But notice I said you have to achieve a certain level of intelligibility. You see, there are two forces that drive language always. The need for intelligibility, we have to understand each other, and the need for identity, which is that we express ourselves in our culture, in our way. Now, of the two, identity is, in a sense, more important. Intelligibility is for the head. We have to understand each other. Identity is for the heart. You know, we feel that our English is part of who we are. And that means it has to be different from every other English in the English-speaking world. And so people who say, oh, I come from such a country and I don't have an English accent. Yes, you do have an English accent. It's your accent, the accent of your culture and your background. Why should you want to speak like me? I am me, you are you. And this is the difference. Whereas once upon a time people felt guilty about not being perfect in their British English or their American English. I say, forget that now. It's your English that counts. I love to liken the English language to a garden of flowers. And if you go into that garden and you see only one kind of flower, a British English received pronunciation, and that's all. What a boring garden that would be. Whereas now we have all the flowers of English around the world. A French English pronunciation, a Swedish English pronunciation, an Indian English pronunciation, and every country out there that has got their English has got their own unique take upon it. And that is the beauty of the English language. It is so versatile and diverse, and that's what I like to try and describe in order to give some confidence, some pride to people who previously might have felt a bit guilty or a bit inferior because they don't imagine themselves to be like the British or American English of the past.
That's the passion that everyone was talking about tonight when they were piling on the accolades. Of course, there's all the books that you've written, but that passion, that inspiration that you inspire in people to feel legitimate, to feel like, you know, they can be who they are and preserve their identity in the process. And they were talking a lot about how you've brought linguistics into an ability to invoke social change, which I thought was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, well, of course, one has to realize that there are two subjects here. There's linguistics and there's the English language. Now, what's the difference? Well, of course, linguistics is a study of all languages. But all languages have the same criteria as English has. They have to be intelligible to each other within a language, and they have to express identity. So just as dialects of English and varieties of English express local identities, so do languages. And so it's an inevitable, it's an interaction really. The linguistics I do, which looks at as many of the languages in the world as possible, and especially the endangered languages. If you're living in a part of the world where a language is endangered, You really need to try to care for it. And English is sometimes said to be, you know, a threat to these languages. Well, any language can be a threat to any other language. In my view, a balance between the two, a balance between the multilingualism that is the human condition. Remember, most people in the world are bilingual. 3/4 of the world's population are bilingual. You know, to be monolingual is to be handicapped, really. And so people have to realize that a balance between the two, using English for international purposes or whatever purposes they have in mind, and then fostering and being proud of their local languages, that's the ideal situation as far as I'm concerned.
I've got to ask this question that I think is on a lot of people's minds. You talked about English being the world's lingua franca, the language, the tool that people use for communication today. How do you see that progressing? Where do you think we are headed? What's the future of English?
Oh, well, you know, you should never try to predict the future of language and languages. I mean, think back 1,000 years. Think back 1,000 years when Latin was the universal language of the human race, really, the educated human race. Who would have, if you'd have said in those days, in 1,000 years' time, nobody will be speaking Latin, or hardly anybody, you'd have said you were mad. Now, in 1,000 years' time, who knows what we'll be speaking? If they land, we might be speaking Martian or something. Who knows? But at the moment, for the foreseeable future, there is no change in the way in which English has evolved into being the world's lingua franca. All the other languages that might one day replace it, like, you know, Chinese and Spanish and Arabic and so on, none of them are remotely in competition with English at the moment. And when you look at the statistics, I just reviewed all the statistics for the 3rd edition of the Cambridge Encyclopedia of the English Language, and what you find is a continuing growth. In 1995, at the 1st edition, there were 1.5 billion people speaking English around the world. It's 1,500 million. In the 2nd edition, in 2004, 2003, it was 2,000 million, 2 billion. And in the latest edition, out earlier this year, it's 2.3 billion. So we're still seeing an increase, but not as fast as it used to be, you see. It does seem to be leveling off a little bit. So the future seems secure as far as English is concerned, but don't ask me what's going to happen after another couple of generations have gone by. The future of a language is the future of society. To predict the future of a language is to predict the way society is going to go. And who can predict this? I mean, who would have predicted Brexit? Who would have predicted Donald Trump? You know, we are dealing with unknowns here.
Thank you so much for your very insightful and non-committal answer, and a very deserving winner of this year's outstanding contribution to English language teaching, Professor David Crystal.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, and a big warm wave to all of you out there.
I've got to give you a hug. Thank you so much. Thank you, David.
Bless you.
Hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Hope so.
See you soon. Congratulations. Joining me next on the red carpet, we've got the winner for the Local Innovation Awards. Let me see if I can find them. Let me look around. The winner for this year's Local Innovation Awards, I'm kind of on my own here, but if you've heard or if you've watched us live stream, the winner of this year's Local Innovation Award is the Hands Up Project, the Hands Up Project's playwriting competition. A wonderful little project where they have the students of Gaza writing stories, local stories of their own, into the English language and creating a play with the English language, and then the competition is then won, and the winner gets their play published in this lovely little book, which I shall get Nick Brilborough to talk to you about in a moment. A little known fact about the Hands Up Project also is that they have their own conference. They now have the Hands Up Project conference, which I shall be asking Nick about today. I see Nick, he is there, looking overwhelmed. I think he's overwhelmed by the number of congratulations he's got today. But Nick, hello, Nick, come. have been telling the viewers all about the Hands Up project.
Brilliant.
And how you have a conference now. That's just amazing.
Yes.
But first things first, congratulations on winning the award.
Yeah, thank you. It's a huge honour, and we're really excited, and I'm really pleased for everyone in Gaza who I hope everyone was watching tonight, and they're all the kids and the teachers. I mean, this is really for everyone in Palestine, children, teachers from UNRWA, who've just thrown themselves into doing drama activities, and there are hundreds of drama clubs all over Palestine now who are just getting involved, and you know, all these kids are getting involved in drama, and it's a wonderful thing. And it's
you're joined by your co-team members. Would you like to introduce them to us?
Melissa Scott runs Gilgamesh Publishing, who published the book. She's also a trustee of the Hands Up project, and Sam Rose is from UNRWA, which is the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, who provide education to how many Palestinian refugees?
Over 500,000 Palestinian children, mostly in Gaza, but also West Bank, Syria, Lebanon and Jordan.
What do you think is the significance of this win for you?
I think this project is great, but I think particularly for the children in Gaza. I mean, we have almost 300,000 children in Gaza they've lived through conflict, they lived through blockade, they lived through power cuts, trauma, you know, heartache all the time. And projects like this that really connect to them, they give them a kind of lift in their daily lives, but also show that the world and people care, and that it really makes a difference. I mean, these are people who are closed in their environment, so you know, contacts to outside world, contacts to the West Bank. This project has taken children from Gaza to meet Palestinians that they've never seen in the West Bank. It's taken them to Jerusalem, got them out of Gaza, and it really gives them a lift in difficult times.
What's the role of English for these children of Gaza?
Well, Adrian Underhill, who's a big supporter of the Hands Up project, he once went to Palestine. I think it was the first time he ever went to Palestine to do some teacher training. And he asked people there, or somebody said in one of the workshops, why are we learning English? And one of the English language supervisors said, well, we're learning English to tell our story to the world. And I think that is really what we are enabling through the Hands Up project. We are helping children to tell their stories, and it's a beautiful story, and it's a powerful story, and they're very, very creative kids, and it's a story that is often not told. You know, the media does not tell this story. They tell a different story about what's going on in Palestine. So it's really important, I think, that that this happens, and it's very interesting how in a place like Gaza, children and teachers have a very high level of English, considering most of people have never left the country, but they have an incredibly high level of English because they can see that learning English is a way for them to connect to people outside. And that's what we all want to do, really. We want to connect to people. So.
But it's more than that. I think education is so important to them. I think that they feel that it's an opportunity for them to kind of get out and potentially reach out to the world and that they live in, and it's so important, and it's normality. And so if they're being bombed or whatever, they find it's really a kind of a source of solace to be able to go to school on those days and know that it's a normal day for them, just like, you know, we have every day and we take for granted, or our children take for granted.
So just a little recap for the viewer who might not be as familiar with the Hands Up project. So some of the things that you have taken on. So today you've won for the playwriting competition, where the children of Gaza have written their own stories in the English language, and the winner has been published in a book. Yes, and would you care to tell us the name of the winner?
Well, last year's competition, the winner was a play called Inner Thoughts. And this group of 5 girls from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, we brought them over to the UK. That was funded by Simon Greenall, the late Simon Greenall, sorely missed Simon Greenall, who supported that project, and his wife, Jill Florent. And they supported them to come over to the UK. They performed their play at our Hands Up Project conference at Westminster University last year. But they're not the only winners. I mean, we have 30 plays that are published in the book, and from last year, And also what we're doing now is we're bringing plays out of Gaza to the West Bank. So I'm actually going to Gaza tomorrow, and I'm going to be bringing a group, with both of us, me and Melissa, are going to be bringing a group of 15 children from Gaza to Jerusalem, and they're going to perform their plays in the National Theatre, Palestinian National Theatre. And it'll be the first time out of Gaza for them. And they'll be standing on a stage and saying, we are here, and we're going to make you laugh and make you cry, and we're going to do all those things that drama does for people.
And then we'll take another group to Bethlehem straight on after that, and they'll come, the same 15 children, isn't it? And there's a centre there in the refugee camp where they're working together to perform plays in Arabic and in collaboration. And it's great for them to feel and meet, each other, and that's a big part of it, isn't it? It's the partnerships and going, wow, what's your life like? What's our life like? So,
what a wonderful message of love and unity and how, we're all one. That's amazing.
And one thing, what we're really excited about at the moment is this idea of remote theatre. So, it's great for some people who can leave Gaza and perform their plays. Not everyone can do that. So we're also working on this idea of how can you make a play that you can perform through simple video conferencing tools. So we're trying to connect to schools all around the world and get children to perform their plays directly into the classrooms. We're doing it at conferences, we're doing it at universities, in libraries. I'm going to be speaking at a big literature festival in July, the Way with Words Festival, and we're going to do 2 live links to Gaza, and they're going to perform 2 plays. So really excited about all these things that are happening.
I've actually been really privileged to have watched one of the plays that your students performed at an ITEFL conference one year. I think it was 2 years ago. You had a Skype link and a really big screen, and your students, your children, I would say, they performed this wonderful play in front of all these teachers in the auditorium, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. And I'm so pleased for your standing ovation this evening. Congratulations once again for winning the Local Innovation in partnership with the Cambridge Assessment English Award. Congratulations, well deserved. I have also with me this evening the British Council Hornby Scholars. I have 2 of them with me tonight, and I can't wait to introduce them to you. I have got Victoria, who's come all the way from Warwick. Victoria is from Nigeria, but she's now currently studying in Warwick University. Yes, and I have Parvis, and he is from Afghanistan and has come from Warwick as well. You're studying in Warwick University. They are the Hornby Scholars from British Council. I would like you to tell everyone what the Hornby Scholarship is about.
Oh yeah, okay. The AS Hornby Educational Trust Fund is for English language teachers from developing countries, and they are being sent to the UK to study for a 1-year master's program at the University of Warwick. Yeah, thank you.
And it is focusing on English teachers from outside the UK, and it is a one-year master's degree at the University of Warwick for teaching English as second language.
So you're here to do a 1-year master's program, and what subject are you doing it in? What's the specialization?
It's teaching English to speakers of other languages with a specialism in teacher education and development.
And that's the same for you, Parvis?
Yeah, we have the same specialism.
Sounds really interesting. I was having a chat with Victoria and Parvis earlier on, and they were telling me how the MA that they're doing has really changed their outlook about towards teaching and how they intend to teach in the future. What was your wow moment that you told me about earlier?
Yeah, it's about this course I just mentioned, specialism in teacher education and development. There's this particular topic called mentoring and teacher training. It has really impacted me and has made me to develop an online coaching program for English language teachers in Nigeria. So I tend to engage in coaching teachers online using the mentoring approach. So it has really impacted in me, a positive approach towards empowering teachers, helping them to develop teaching strategies that they could easily use to tackle the challenges in their classroom and to help develop their learners to be able to adopt these 21st century skills. Thank you.
Right, okay, that is a wow moment to understand the power of mentoring and coaching, and you're going to bring that back to teach other teachers and teacher trainers in Nigeria. And Parvis, what was your wow moment for the MA?
Well, I don't know if I describe it as a wow moment or describe it as a No, yeah. So it was a time that I realized that I talk a lot when giving feedback to the teachers, and I was a bit direct when mentoring the teachers, English teachers. So that was the very good moment for me that I saw when I recorded my voice, the meeting that I had with the teachers. So when I recorded and then I listened to it back, so it was something like I was talking 80%, not allowing the teachers to describe what they want to say or how they want to plan the lesson or how they taught the lesson. Yeah.
You're very brave for recording your voice. I must say, recording your voice and recording your teaching is such a powerful tool. Everyone should do it. You should do it. But it can be quite scary watching yourself back. And well done for being so brave. What a great lesson. Now today we have Parviz and Victoria here because they're going to take over the microphone and they are going to be interviewing the winners of the last two categories. Innovation in learner resources and innovation in teacher resources. So I'm going to hand the microphone over. You've got your own microphone there. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
it feels so great to be here, really.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, so now we are going to have our Learner Resource Award winners.
Yeah.
And
Teacher Resource Award winners.
yeah, so they would be the group after them. So first of all, we will have a couple of moments with Elena, Zoe, and Adam. Yeah, their project is ready to go, and it is mostly focusing on ELT videos. Yeah. Authentic.
ELT video, authentic videos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, hello.
Hello, lovely to see you.
Yeah, me too. It is an honor having you on the red carpet with us. And can you tell us about how do you feel tonight after winning this ELTons Awards?
Shall I? Well, we're very excited. A little bit surprised, I guess, because we were trying very hard not to get our hopes up. But at the end of the day, really proud of it all our team. And looking forward to the next thing that we'll be doing.
Oh, interesting. So you want to say something?
Well, we just expected that we would be one of the finalists was enough, and we expected that we'd get no further than that. So being the winner has been absolutely fantastic. And as Elena said, you know, we were just grateful for all the people that have helped us along the way.
Interesting. So, could you tell me what does this award mean to you?
Well, the British Council is such an important part of learning English around the world that to be recognised by the British Council is really the gold standard. So it's a fabulous achievement from our point of view, and we're so grateful to the British Council for allowing us to be here.
Thank you very much. So can you tell us why did you create this innovation? What made you to create this innovation?
I think we'd been working on video projects for ELT for a long time, and it felt like the time to make our own video series. And we did, and I think it's come out excellently. I think we can all agree. It's come out really well. I'm really, really proud of it, and the authenticity and like engagement that it really has. And I think that's what everyone's commented on, is how authentic and engaging and how different, how set apart it is. And we really put our heart and soul into making that and the resources that go with it. So I think it just felt like time to do our own, and that's what we've done.
Oh, that's great. So how long did it take you to develop this resource?
Well, we've been working on this particular resource for about 18 months. But in a sense, that's not quite the right way of looking at the time, because it brings together skills that have been developed by a very big team over much longer than that. So it was the sort of epitome of the skills. And we made the videos. We're still full in making the next set and the set after that and the set after that. So it's something that doesn't really stop.
Yeah, thank you very much. So what challenges you had to overcome to create this innovation?
I think the main challenge is around the fact that although everybody sort of, when you say authentic video, everybody says, yes, that's what we want, that's what we're looking for. At the end of the day, a lot of people in this industry, because of how used to we are to the everyday video that we see in ELT, which is very strongly scaffolded, very stilted often. It's been very hard to actually convince them to actually take real authenticity, to try it out, to see what happens, to not obsess with, you know, how leveled it is, like the actual audio content, how leveled it is, and to just run with it and see what happens. And they've seen actually that it really does work. So that's basically.
Thank you very much.
So what's a challenge or problem as your innovation solved?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
What's challenge or problem as your innovation solved?
Well, we think that it's solved several problems. Firstly, for the generation of learners that we're looking at now, who have grown up with YouTube, with video everywhere, it's put that in the classroom, it's put that in their learning experience. Real video, that's the same sort of video that they would watch in their free time. So that's one of the challenges, to make the learning resources really special for the learners. A second area is that, as Elena was just saying, we use a lot of real English as it's spoken by people, natural English, and bringing that to learners, because English is, as Benjamin Zephaniah said, English is not just one language. English is now a global collection of languages. So what we try to do is bring all of those to our learners. And finally, I think the innovation that we solved is making this video really easy for publishers, for schools, for teachers to get hold of. A lot of the ELT business, the whole sector is a little bit scared of video. So what we try and do is take the mystery out of video, make it easy for people to access the best in authentic learning video.
Would this be as your next step for future?
Well, we're exploring several different things. We are very, very interested in the, one of the fields that we've been working with is this idea of bringing authentic vloggers into the kind of work that teachers use, and this is one thing that we're really excited to be exploring further. What else?
We're also looking at, we're currently in the process of producing several new series of videos, but we're also looking at extended reading material based around videos. So we're looking to launch in the next 6 months a series of e-readers.
And one more thing I just remembered, the other thing that we're exploring that we're quite excited with is the idea of integrating the kind of video that we've been making into self-learning resources, so developing courses around the videos for students to use on their own.
Wow,
Thank you very
great.
much.
So, are you ready to run?
We've been ready to run for a while, and we're going to run a lot faster now we've got this award.
Oh, wow, interesting. So, any plans for the future? Like, any plans when you return?
We've got lots and lots of plans.
Wow.
We've got lots of new series of videos. We've got whole courses, and we're looking at, as I said just now, e-readers. And we're also going to continue our work in the developing world and in crisis situations with our work that we do, again, with the British Council, helping refugee communities with their English learning.
That's
Thank you very much.
Thank you
we wish
very
you
much.
success. Best of luck with your future and future innovation. So hope to see you back again next year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, that's
ladies,
wonderful.
Yeah, that was ready to run.
Yeah, I'm ready to run.
Yeah. So here we have our next group.
Yeah.
And they are the award winner for teacher resources.
Yeah.
And we are here with Tarek and Mari and Lindsay.
Yeah.
And their project is Teaching English Online.
Yeah.
So here we have, yes please.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Marie-Therese Swaby, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So can you tell us a bit how do you feel tonight after winning this award?
Really surprised, and really grateful to the judges for recognising all the work that we put into building the course. So elated, really elated. Thank you.
Totally unexpected. We really didn't expect to win, but we're very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I can feel your passion, I can feel your excitement, I can see it all over you. So what does this award mean to you?
I think it's just recognition of the work we put in, isn't it? I mean, it's a really wonderful course. So it's, it's an online course that teachers from all around the world can have access to, those that have already taught online, those that are looking to teach online. So, it really is a course for everybody, and it's free, and the participants are wonderful. They share and they support, and it's such a positive place to be, and such a positive thing to be involved in, that we love working on it and we are proud of it, and so it's great that other people have recognised that it's worthy of an award.
Thank you very much. So if you can tell us what made you to create this innovation, why did you create this innovation?
I can answer that. So initially started out of some research we were doing with our CELTA trainers, CELTA trainees. We did this large piece of research, just finding out where they were going to, where they felt their training was still deficient. And then also just observing lots and lots of examples of online tutoring and online tutoring companies starting up. This market was growing hugely, and there's just a huge lack of support for these teachers. There's support for all sorts of other areas of teaching, but just not teaching online. So that's where the need came from, and we just wanted to find a way to help teachers transfer the skills and knowledge they have and the teaching methodologies they know so well for face-to-face teaching, how to transfer them online and how to incorporate that into their online teaching to help learners learn their language and learn their skills.
Thank you very much.
Interesting. How long did it take you to develop this resource?
Well, the first run we did quite quickly, but the second run we improved, but because we were able to get examples of actual teaching from teachers and learners who were teaching online, who actually gave us their time and so on, and gave us examples of lessons that we were then able to build into the course. So I think probably the course took 3 or 4 months to develop initially, and then we probably spent another 2 months in the second run to improve it so that we had examples of real teaching.
I think that's the benefit of an online course, is that you can make amendments, so we learn from it, we develop it, we can adapt it and improve it, and I think we've done that, haven't we? Yeah.
That's it.
Sorry, I was just going to say, we're always looking to improve at every run, so we iterate every single time. I mean, the first course was 3 weeks long, and then it got extended to 4 weeks with tremendous amounts of improvement, and then we gathered, always listening to feedback from the learners on the course, because they're really what makes it, and we're trying to meet their needs rather than dictating to them what they need. So it's listening to the users and listening to the teachers.
And what challenges you had to overcome to create this innovation?
Sorry?
What challenges you had to overcome to create this innovation?
We didn't really particularly have any challenges, because we have very talented people that work in the new product development who already had quite a lot of knowledge. We had Lindsay, who knows stuff about teaching online. We've experience of developing MOOCs. We have other MOOCs in our suite that we've written for teachers. We have a course for volunteering for refugees. We have a train the trainer course. So we have experience of doing that. I think the biggest challenge really was getting examples of teaching, and we were very lucky that we had teachers who were willing to do that for us. But I have to say that the biggest worry really was how participants were going to take to the course. But we needn't have worried, really. We've just had fabulous responses, and people have been really appreciative and complimentary about the course and about each other. And we've had teachers who have no experience at all. We have teacher trainers doing the course who have 25 years, 30 years of teaching, who come to the course and share that knowledge. So we're blessed, really. We're blessed.
Sincerely, I like the fact that the website is free and that you're trying to encourage teachers to develop in your practice. So what other challenge or problem has your innovation solved?
I think really the problem really with online teaching is that people think it's the future, but actually it is not the future. It's now. It's the present. Actually, Tarek and I were saying before that this has been going on for 10 years. And people seem to think, okay, I know how to do Skype, and so I Skype with my family, so I can do that teaching English. But actually, we are teachers of English, and we have training, and we should utilize that training. And we found that teachers have really appreciated being given methodology and frameworks and transferring that knowledge that they have in the classroom to teaching online. In a way, I think it's a relief to them that they don't have to do something new. You know, they just have to learn a little bit of stuff about technology, but the same things they do in the classroom, they can do with sound methodological principles online.
That's great. That's really, really awesome.
And so, having this success, how would you celebrate it back when you get back home?
Well, I think we're going to let all of the team at DMPD know about it. I think they'll be very proud of what we've achieved. And I think looking forward, we'll be looking at like adding to the course or branching off and trying to create more support for these teachers, these online teachers, because there are so many of them and they do require some support. There should be more support out there, like there is for every other type of teaching.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do you have any message for teachers all over the world watching us live now? Do you have any message to give to them? Could you share?
Yeah, if you're interested in teaching English online and you feel like you want some support and development, then please, have a look on Future Learn, because our course is there at the moment. I think you can still sign up, can't you, for the next couple of weeks. We will be doing it again later in the year, so look out for it. And to all the participants that have participated in the course, thank you, because you have been brilliant. You have made the course special, and we're going to share it with them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So we wish you success with your future innovation, and we hope to see you next year in 2020 on the red carpet as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Congratulations.
So, that was our last interview.
Yeah.
And we are coming to closing the ceremony. Here I give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Parviz.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Lovely having you both. And what a treat having the Hornby scholars do the interviews instead on the red carpet. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And
It's
I
a
hope
privilege.
you enjoyed today's event.
Yes, I have. It's really a huge privilege to be among these professionals. Oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, we hope to see them again for sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It might be in the history of our country. I don't know if anyone from Afghanistan has attended ELTons Awards. So I really thank the British Council and the ELTons Award team for inviting us, and the Hornby Scholarship team as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Parviz, and thank you, Victoria.
Thank you
very much for being here tonight. Well, I have one last interviewee for you this evening. Someone who is a finalist, but who didn't get an interview before the ceremony because we were running a little bit late. And he's here with me today, Chris Rowland, who is being nominated for Understanding Teenagers in the ELT Classroom. If you watched our Facebook Live the other day, you know that I made a big joke about how it was oxymoronic, suggesting that we could even understand teenagers. Could you explain the title a little bit?
Well, I mean, the title is in the continuous, it's Understanding Teenagers. So I'm trying to indicate there's a process there that I'm part of, but maybe, it's never complete. But it could have been called, it could equally have been called Talking to Teenagers. It could equally have been called Teenagers Understanding Their Teachers, because it's all about the dialogue. I'm trying to highlight there that we need to put the teachers and the students in a dialogue and talk to each other and get the kids to understand why it is they're doing what they're doing, and that way win them over.
So could you tell us, because those out there with teenage children, those out there teaching young learners, teenagers are just sort of hanging to know, how do you get them in a dialogue? What can you do to get them to cooperate more?
Okay, I think the first thing is space, because people take time to turn around. I mean, even a primary child, you ask them to do something different, and you need to wait a little. They don't immediately stop what they're doing and start doing what you want them to do. With a teenager, they're making decisions, but, you know, you ask them to do something different, and you need to wait a little. They don't immediately stop what they're doing and start doing what you want them to do. With a teenager, they're making decisions, but, you know, you ask them to do something different, and you need to wait a little. They don't immediately stop what they're doing and start doing what you want them to do. With a teenager, they're making decisions, but, We're trying to reframe our requests that they make those different decisions and give them the space to choose slightly different courses of action. But I think if they can tell that those requests come from a place that is sympathetic with them and has their best interest at heart, that's always going to help. So yeah, that.
I think that's exactly what I love about the book, because it gives you lots of activities, doesn't it? A lot of suggestions of what you can do in the classroom, very practical things. But it also gives you lots of good advice and tips on how to fix issues, like how to fix problems. If things don't go according to plan, what you can do about it. So would you be able to tell us, sort of a concise summary of what your tips for teachers might be?
Yes, but just to go back to your point there, it's I was reading through, there are, I think, 70 conversations or examples of conversations between teacher and students in the book. I mean, you can actually read the dialogues and the exchanges. So we're putting the classroom back into the book and hopefully the students back into the methodology and the teacher. Tips, okay. I think if we can accept that we're working always between certain sets of tensions, so between what we want to get done and what our students are going to help us get done. We're working between, the students thinking as individuals and thinking as a collective. And there's always different sets of tensions. If another tension is between lockstep and fragmenting the class and having children doing different things at different times. So there's constant tensions, and so the classroom, the teenage classroom, is a place where teachers feel stressed. But when we realise that, then we realise that's our working environment rather than something that we need to feel guilty about because we're not doing our jobs well.
It's a really nice way of putting it. Now, I'm sure a lot of teachers out there are thinking this, because every time I deliver a teacher training workshop, this is the question I get most. How do you stop students from looking at their phones in the classroom? Do you ban mobile phones? What do you do with technology?
Okay, so, I mean, in the book there are lots of little, almost not dirty tricks, but little tips. I mean, to borrow the England cyclist coach's terminology from a few years back, it's the accumulation of marginal tricks rather than marginal gains. So, for example, I had a class that had all their mobile phones out. I told them about another class that had a real problem and the penalties I needed to put into place. I said, but I don't need to do that with you guys, and there wasn't a phone. They'd hidden them all. But I'd come at them slightly sideways. I'd explained to them the rationale, but there was no reason to be defensive because I wasn't talking about them. So the book is full of these little sort of sideways maneuvers that you can make towards, to explain to a teenager how you want them to be doing something slightly different, but without, creating that win or lose proposition, that win or lose situation, which is where, yeah, absolutely. And then there's no defiance, there's no challenge, there's no say, oh, okay, he's not really talking about us, but we can see where it's going. So.
I don't have a teenager. I have a 5 turning 6-year-old who behaves like a teenager, but that is great advice. I love it. So that is Chris Rowland, Understanding Teenagers in the ELT Classroom. If you teach teenagers, if you have teenagers, you've got to get the book.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, Chris. I hope you're enjoying the ceremony and the event. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. And with that, that is our final interviewee of the evening. I have with me Callie Massey and Paul Braddock. He's coming. Paul's coming. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
How's the event been for both of you?
Amazing. I've said to a few people tonight, every year is lovely. This year, for some reason, there's a very uplifting atmosphere. Everybody's in a really good mood, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here as always. But tonight in particular, it's lovely. Yeah.
And you, Paul?
I think for me, there's that kind of energy, and there's that that enjoyment of the fact that we're celebrating this kind of innovation. And everyone is very happy to kind of be here and happy to kind of be talking about it and happy to be kind of thinking, okay, well, look, this is our industry, this is what we're doing good things with it, and it's important, and I think as Benjamin said, in the ceremony, the English language or language and the ability to communicate is an important thing, and I think that's what this is that it's a kind of celebration of that, of that, using language to do good, and I think that's important. So yeah, no, it's been brilliant. It's been great.
Nice as well, because people at home can't see behind the scenes, but the hosts and kind of the movers and shakers, the winners and outstanding achievement winners and the hosts, they're all here tonight mingling and mixing with everyone. They're really enjoying the atmosphere, really appreciating the ELT industry for all that it has to offer. So yeah, it's like a proud and happy moment tonight. It's lovely.
Well, I really hope you were able to join us live streaming. I hope you watched the ceremony, and if you haven't, there is a recording of the interviews that Caroline and Paul and myself has conducted this evening. There's a recording of the event. So if you want to experience the buzz and the atmosphere that Caroline and Paul were talking about, then do watch the recording of the live streamed event and red carpet interviews.
We had a little clip of the skyline. Now the rain has stopped and the skyline has settled over London. So we've got the London Eye, all the beautiful backdrop here. I think it needs to be appreciated a little bit. We're here, right? We should make a point of this, yeah.
On that note, on that very beautiful and uplifting note, I think it's time for us to say goodbye to the viewers out there. Don't you think, Paul?
I think so, yes. I think it's time to say goodnight. So thank you ever so much for joining us, everybody who's been watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope...
Same place, not sure about same place, but same time next year.
Well, hopefully same time next year.
Hopefully, yeah. And we'll be here, hopefully, as well. So we'll see you next year.
Thanks for joining us, and hopefully see you next year.